Everybody, this is Anna Sabramowitz here. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And today we are going to be talking about interactive stories as always. However, today's special topic is the one, the only, the modular epilogue. Basically, this is where you figure out where to give feedback and how to give feedback during your interactive story, because feedback is also very important. All right, so first, let me just make sure everybody's connected and let's get into it, okay? So I'm gonna make sure everybody's invited that should be invited so I can also see your comments. So bear with me. If you're here visiting, make sure you say hi. I love hearing from you. And the first thing I wanted to start with is to say, thanks so much for actually being here. I know you could be doing 1,000 other things more important than this, but the fact that you're showing up here and the fact that you want to learn about interactive storytelling and the strategies that I use to engage people, I'm totally grateful that you're here, and I really appreciate it that you're taking this time to invest in yourself and learn a new skill and also hang out with me and learn from my experience. All right, so thanks so much for being here. Hi Di, hi Chantal, thanks so much for being here. All right, so first off, this modular epilogue, really, okay, and hopefully you can see that. Yes, okay, that, okay. I'm just, there we go. All right. So what's important when you're doing your interactive story is that the feedback that you give to people does not knock them out of the story. And we tend to do that quite a bit sometimes. So let me tell you a little bit about the interactive story and where the feedback should go and what we call it the modular epilogue. All right. So let's go back to the interactive story for just a second. Now, and this is the difference between an interactive story and any old e-learning module out there, right? The goal of your interactive story is to get somebody who is unaware that they have a gap or that they have some kind of, let's say, a belief that is holding them back. And your goal for this interactive story is basically to get them to emotionally connect, right? Use emotions to connect to that learning journey. Now, the point of your entire interactive story is not to teach people something. There's no way somebody can become a better salesperson through this journey. That's not what the intent of an interactive story is. The intent of an interactive story is to get them excited for that learning journey. And then afterwards, if you want to train somebody, let's say how to be a better salesperson or how to use a software effectively, then after that you can have a branching scenario, right? A simulation. That's when those things fit. So a lot of people ask me, hey, what's the difference between a branching scenario and an interactive story? Well, the difference is that an interactive story is meant to have you almost look at another character from a third person perspective so that you're not directly feeling like you're being challenged, but through that person's journey, you're learning that there's a better future for you. And it's a sneaky way to do that, right? It's kind of cool. And basically at the end, they're really excited about any kind of simulation or training you're going to throw at them because they're now emotionally invested in this journey. And that's huge, right? We know that people make decisions with emotions and then they back them up and rationalize them with logic. But we throw a lot of rationalizations and logic at people saying this is good for you, but we haven't emotionally connected them to the journey yet, and therefore they don't see it as relevant for them, right? So that's what this whole thing is trying to achieve. So when you put feedback here, you got to be very strategic with it, because the thing is, this entire story is meant to get you into a trance. It's meant to get you to feel a certain way for a certain character and go through their journey in a certain way, right? So if you put feedback in here while they're in a trance in a story, it might actually mess up the experience and get them out of it, and then jar them out of what you're trying to do, which is to get them to really connect with this character and go all the way to the end without being distracted by all the other stuff that's distracting out there, like YouTube and Snapchat and TikTok and all those other things, right? So how can you get them to do that? So that's why you still want to give them feedback, but you got to be strategic. And that's where the modular epilogue comes in. The modular epilogue if can come in several spots, but I'll give you two right now. So one of them is if you've divided your scenarios into kind of these acts, right? These kind of subsections, you can give a modular epilogue or some feedback based on their answers, maybe halfway through, right? And then at the end. But you don't do it after every question because that would mess up the flow, right? People are in a story, they don't want to hear feedback when they're in a story, they just want to experience the consequences, all right? So let's get into the module. And as you see here, each of these little pearls represents a scenario, right? So what I'm proposing, the modular epilogue that I'm showing you now, is I'm proposing that you track in your module what answer somebody gave. They get the corresponding consequences based on the decisions that they've made, but then at the end, they also get a reinforcing feedback based on those decisions, and this is how that works. Now I'm going to have to find that page. Where is my beautiful, here it is, modular epilogue. All right, so let's say this is a sequence of 3 scenarios you're tracking, right? So this is the event feedback, right? Where what you're doing is you're actually saying, okay, this is what actually this is what this person chose, right? And based on their choices, as you're accumulating them, because this is just a sequence of scenarios, then at the end you give them a results screen, right? And because you've tracked how they've answered each of these questions, what you can do, and this is that little, it's an event flag, right? Which happens is it just tracks which option that they chose. And based on that event flag, you will give them appropriate feedback. And what's cool here, and I think this is kind of genius, not that I came up with it, but if somebody's made a decision, they've gotten a consequence here, and there's other strategies for you to actually reinforce some good thinking around this particular event, right? But what's cool is that in your modular epilogue, well, with the results screen, you can actually reinforce this and have them recall this decision again, because you'll actually say through the event flag, you chose this option in this situation. Here's how we think you could improve it, or here's what you should have considered before making that decision, or that was a great decision because of this, right? So what's happening is they're not only getting exposed to it once, this decision, they're now remembering that decision again in the results slide, and they're getting it based on what they made the decision about. And so it's very meaningful feedback, but they're almost having to think about it twice, which is awesome. Right? And there are strategies that will help you, whether you want to split up. Like I said, if you have 6 scenarios, you might want to do it in the middle if it's really important. But if you're doing it right with reflections, with reflective moments, which I'll talk about tomorrow, one of the things you'll be doing with your results is really kind of wrapping it up, right? And having them recall all of their experiences. It's not a blur. It's actually a really solid experience. So the modular epilogue, I think, is a super powerful strategy. One of the things that happens when we work with experts or practitioners or anybody, they'll say, hey, where's my content? Where's all the resources and the stuff that I want them to check out? Well, it doesn't really belong in an interactive story, right? What belongs in an interactive story, though, is really focused feedback on the special decisions and the situations that were made. It's kind of like you're really coaching there. You're not just dumping info on people. You're actually really coaching, saying, you made that decision. I wonder if and you saw the consequence. What happened, right? So you're really able to customize this experience for that person and give them individualized feedback based on what they're doing. And this isn't hard. This isn't complicated. This is built into our framework. So that's one of the things I really wanted to share with you here is we give feedback too early and people just dismiss it because they want to get to the next situation, right? They want to go to the next level in the game, let's say. But here what happens is we're able to get them entrance them in the story, have them make powerful decisions as they go, right? There's other mechanics you can put on this, but then at the end, you're kind of recapping it in a meaningful way because they're looking at how they answered and what feedback they get based on what they did, right? So I think it's way more powerful than jamming this in between these scenarios, because at that point, they're not really receptive to it, right? So this is just another way to reinforce that lesson in a really personalized way. So I hope that makes sense. Now, like I said, there are other mechanics, right? And I've been talking about them for the past 2 weeks, because my goal is to make sure that even if you can't join me in our interactive storytellers community, that you're able to incorporate this into your own practice. Because as far as I'm concerned, even if you're just doing this, even for your own scenario modules, this will already be a powerful way for you to reinforce that message without disturbing them in the middle while they're working through their scenarios. Because that's a good immersive experience, right? And you might be pulling them out of it if you're trying to go be the omnipotent voice that gives feedback midway, right? So that's what you're trying to do. And I think that's, I hope you found that helpful. I personally really enjoy this approach. I think that people who are going through, I mean, you'll get feedback from your learners, right? But I think people really enjoy having it kind of wrap it all up kind of at the end and get feedback per choice. And then also one of the things you're doing in your modular epilogue is you're also reinforcing that if they want to try again, they should, right? Because the goal of our interactive stories is not that people go through them just once. Our goal is that people go through them again and again because they want to see what different decisions mean in different contexts, how things play out. A lot of times, and this is the kind of player I am, is I'll go through an interactive story and I'll pick the choices that I know are right or whatever, because it's very important to me that I get to the end, right? But then after you get to the end and let's say you're successful, I always go, I wonder if I tried all the wrong choices that I know are wrong to see what actually happens, because I'm afraid to choose the wrong thing, right? And maybe I like to see how it plays out in a safe space. So it's really cool if you're thinking about how can I make this a repeat experience, right? It's so engaging, it's so juicy that people actually want to go through it again, and that's really huge. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of challenging for a lot of people who are working in this industry, who are, creating things that are really powerful, but they're behind closed doors or they can't share them, and then they're in the industry for like 10 plus years and they really have nothing to show for their experience, right? Everything is behind closed doors and they can't share it. And so one of the things that we're doing in our community, and this is, I think, kind of cool and kind of part of the draw, is that people are designing experiences that incorporate all the things that they actually want to see in projects, which is, beautiful visuals, excellent storytelling, really engaging contextual scenarios, and really beautiful user interface, because that's huge, right? If people are struggling to navigate your piece, that's you want to create as little friction between your story and decision making as you possibly can, right? So you don't overcomplicate it. And so basically, a ton of people in our community, what they're doing is they're actually taking these experiences and crafting their own so that they can show it off as more work that they want to do, or just because they actually want to be able to pitch these things in their organization, but they know they're not ready yet because they want to be able to show that they've actually gone through this kind of project A to Z, be comfortable with storytelling before they pitch storytelling, right? Because I've had people who are like, I have a project that's storytelling and it's starting in 2 weeks. Can I jump on, Anna, and can you coach me through it? And I'm like, yes, but will it be stressful? Of course, right? So we have a couple of people who are actually building out their own interactive stories so they know what that process is like, so that then when time comes to actually say, hey, here it is, off the shelf, they're not like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, right? It's because this is new for everybody. And I think that's really a part of the cool thing with our community, is that we have people who, who have been in the industry for years, but they've never really told stories or refined stories or really gotten their inspiration from, comic books and games and the things that that are really leveraging that medium, right? The visual medium and a storytelling medium. So it's new for everybody, but it's also something that a lot of people have experience in, and now they can actually infuse it into their work, which is like the coolest thing. Anyways, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, I've been doing these sessions for the past 2 weeks, sharing a new mechanic with you every single day. And today's was Modular Epilogue, how to really effectively structure that feedback and where to put it in your interactive story so that it actually, adds a lot of value and doesn't take them out of the story, because it's the worst thing. Be like, why are you interrupting me? The story's going so well. Right? So if you have any questions about this after you watch it, like I said, I appreciate you taking the time to watch it. Make sure you like the video and you share it if you get the chance, because then it'll pop up first next time I run my live, and so you get to see it right away. And if you have any questions, pop them in the comments, and I'll put a link there if you wanted to talk about building your own interactive story for you or for your organization. I'll put a link to my calendar, and we can have a strategy chat and see if it's a thing for you. Otherwise, thanks so much for sticking around, and have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you very, very soon, my friends. Take care. Thank you. Bye.